to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
Here he goes. It's Hester. Inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Fields stumbling, trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown!
Hurts on first down, fires downfield. It's Deshaun Jackson back in the lineup. This the last 7 games, and he will take it 81 yards. A somersault into the end zone. His first touchdown of the season.
You're listening to The Pigskin Project, the world's #1 football podcast. Now, with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen and Ryan Matthews.
Oh. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Ryan's better at this stuff than I am. Ryan is much better at that stuff than I am. As you guys can tell, it is Ben Hansen and Matt Hartman. Woo! For like, I don't know, it's week, 8 now at this point, and you've been on for
Dude,
like 4 weeks.
I'm trading episodes at this point.
honestly. So for those who are used to Ryan is the usual, well, I would say usual other co-host, which is true, but Matt is on often even when Ryan is here. But Ryan is sick right now, so he's feeling a little bit under the weather. There's a lot of life going on right now. All good things. Nothing bad. But he has a lot of life going on right now as well as being sick. So he's trying to get a little bit better so he can get some of that stuff handled. Again, all good things. No need to worry about any of that stuff for him. And as you guys can see, there's Matt. Matt, how you feeling, buddy?
I mean, with the way last Thursday went for the Saints, and then Saturday with the Horns, not great. But I'm excited to talk ball. You know, I'm always excited to talk ball. There's no better feeling.
Yes, it is. It is always fun to have you on again. For those who are new, first-time listeners, long-time listeners know this, but Matt is indeed not a Bears and OSU fan. As you guys, given it's a slew of jerseys back there, but as you can tell by the jerseys behind him, he is a Texas and Saints fan. Yeah. He's just like Garrett Wilson. But he is a Texas and Saints fan. He is not a OSU and Bears fan. But we'll get right into it with you guys.
Ryan and Ben bring you weekly news.
Matt and Ben brings you weekly news. So we were not on, we didn't record last week, so we're going to go over the news from the last 2 weeks. So some of the stuff is going to be old, some of the stuff you guys have already seen. We're still going to throw it out there just in case you guys have not. So over the last 2 weeks, we've seen 3 major wide receivers kind of on the move. The one that kind of broke this morning, like early this morning, like before the chickens were even awake at this point. D-Hop, kind of the move that everyone expected to happen, got moved to the Chiefs for a 5th-round pick that can be a 4th-round pick. But a part of this was kind of discussions with Cooper Kupp. Do you want to tell the people kind of what that was about?
Yeah, so pretty much the Chiefs tried to get the better player in Cooper Kupp, and the price was too high. I mean, it was that simple, and they pivoted to DeAndre Hopkins pretty fast, it seems like, because, I mean, they didn't even – I mean, we're still weeks and weeks out from the trade deadline. They clearly needed to get a move done at the wide receiver position. They made it a must. So, I like – the thing about DeAndre Hopkins is, like, I don't know if he's bad. I don't know if he's washed. He's just not playing as much. And maybe it's like – maybe he doesn't care for playing for Tennessee. Maybe playing for Kansas City will wake him up again. But I don't know how I feel about the trade. But then you put in the compensation factor, and he was only traded for a 5th-round pick. And it's like, well, there's worse things to do with a 5th-round pick. We watched a team pick a punter with a 4th-round pick last year in the draft.
Ha!
So
yeah.
It's just – it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, yeah, that opens up that conversation for like the news that's been swirling around for a couple weeks now at this point. Cooper Kupp was like supposed to play last week, but then I don't say last minute, but like didn't play, but he for sure is playing tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football.
I think McVay was just like, we're gonna beat the Raiders without Cooper Kupp. We need him for the Vikings game. I feel like that was kind of the way it was. Let him simmer for 4 more days. Let's play him against the better team. We'll take care of business against the Raiders, which they did. And now that's kind of how I interpreted it, more so than I think he was healthy enough to play, but they just we're gonna risk it.
Yeah, give him a chance to get fully healthy. But as Matt was talking about, again, there was that conversation between the Chiefs and Cooper Kupp, and that's kind of been the rumor swirling around a little bit last couple weeks is maybe Cooper Kupp is on the move. And he could be. Just because he wasn't traded to the Chiefs doesn't mean he won't be traded come November. Was it November 5th? It's either 5th or 6th or trade deadline, but I'm pretty sure it's the 5th. Doesn't mean he won't be traded, but like for a second-round pick, I don't think he will. And I think that's probably what they were asking for.
Yeah.
But in terms of another Cooper, Amari Cooper got traded to the Browns. So it was Amari Cooper in a 6th is what the Bills got. And then the Browns got a 3rd and a 7th in return. Again, I feel like it was only like a matter of time. This one kind of felt like it was going to happen for a long time now. So I could see it happening. And getting him for that price is not bad at all. And I'm interested to see kind of how that relationship develops because Josh this season has done a very good job of kind of spreading the ball around better than I would have expected. But now it's nice for him to have an elite pass catcher. It's also probably nice for Amari Cooper to not have, just the worst balls in football thrown to him. So what are your thoughts on the trade?
Any time you add Amari Cooper, it helps out everybody. It helps out the quarterback. It helps out the receiver room. It helps out Amari Cooper getting a better quarterback. Just overall, I mean, this was in conjuncture to the other trade we'll talk about with the New York Jets. I don't know if this was in the works for a while, like the Adams trade felt like, or they kind of was like, you know what, like they're making a move, let's do the same move, let's counterpunch with because it was the same exact like kind of value. It was the 3rd round pick. The only thing was Adams's can turn into a 2nd, kind of leading into the Adams trade, kind of comparing because they happened hours apart from each other, but just overall, I mean, this was a Super Bowl type move. We want to win the Super Bowl. We need an elite player at the wide receiver position to make Keon Coleman even better as a number 2. He balled out against Tennessee, kind of in part with Amari kind of taking a load off of him. So I think it's all around. I think all 3 wide receiver moves are good moves in hindsight, before we see the rest of the season. But
no, exactly. And as you had mentioned, Devontae Adams on the move to the Jets. Again, a move that everyone basically seen the entire time since the start of the season. He got traded, as Matt said, for a 3rd. Really, the big question there is, were the Jets a Devontae Adams away from being playoff contenders? And given it was 1 week, but the early returns on that is absolutely not. So I'm really interested in kind of what that thought process was. I understand it, with Adams, to go ahead and get him more targets, especially with Mike not, living up to what we would have hoped, and still the funkiness of Garrett Wilson trying to find his role. But I do not think this team was a Devontae Adams away from being a contender. Stark difference from where I had them ranked before going into the season. But I think this is a move that a contender would make, like the Bills, like the Chiefs, but the Jets are not contenders. So I'm kind of interested to see where this is going. And then in other news, we'll go ahead and do this here as we're talking about the Jets. Reddick reworked his contract, so he actually fired, or not fired, he got let go, as we talked about in the most previous episode, which would have been 3 weeks ago now at this point. His agency let him go. He signed to a new agency. And like a week later, the Jets and Reddick reworked his deal, so he'll be back with the team. Hopefully, he'll be playing this week. Maybe it'll be another week or so. So now they have Reddick back. So hopefully, with the combination of Reddick and Adams, they can get something going. Do you have any hopes for the Jets at all for the rest of the season?
Yes, because I look around at that AFC, like not winning the division, but like pushing for the wild card, pushing for that 7 seed. If they can get to 9 wins, I think they just have the talent to do it. I think the best case scenario for the Jets is at some point Tyron Smith has to come off the field, which he does every season, and Olu Fashanu is a star. I think that's the only way. At this point, it's a long shot for the Jets. I'm not giving up because the talent is what it is. And you kind of look at the bottom of the AFC, and it's like the Chargers and the Broncos, like not star-studded talented teams like the Jets. But again, it's the Jets. They do this all the time. So I don't know. They have the talent too, but who knows? It's weird.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder and I'm not saying they should, and I'm not saying they will, but like if you're the Jets and like this is another bad year for them, and Rodgers isn't quite what they, hope this experiment to be, do you try to just absolutely just cut your ties with him as much as you can and just tank and hope you can get Arch? We'll see.
Would be a wild direction. It would be a
wild direction
turn, but again, I still think of when they tried to do it with Lawrence. Remember when they beat the Rams that one year? And it costed them Lawrence? I could just see
oh my goodness. Yeah, it
again.
cost them Lawrence and ended with Zach Wilson. But Lawrence clearly,
Which, speaking of Zach Wilson, by the way, the Jets last year through 7 games, 4-3. This year 2-5.
4-3 with Zach Wilson. They had a better record last year with Zach Wilson than they did with Aaron Rodgers.
I'm very passionate about it, but I won't spill my guts. But them firing the coach, man, I'm not over it. He was spotted at the Packers practice today, which I think is hysterical. But overall, I think taking one voice out of the room like Saleh is very bad for the defense, and it's been an issue the last 2 weeks. Ironically enough, who could have thought it? So, but
yeah,
I won't spill my tea on that.
And then kind of the last bit of news before we get into people missing games, whether that's suspension or injuries. Your boy Alvin Kamara, he inked a contract extension, 2 years, 25, which is funny. I think it's a good deal. Obviously, he's kind of really been the only thing that's been a for sure thing on that Saints offense. But that he's making $12.5 million a year, which is $500,000 less than what Saquon is making. And when Saquon got paid $13 million, everyone was like, "Are you kidding me? Why are we paying a running back $13 million?" And now here, Alvin Kamara. Now, Alvin Kamara is a great back in his own right. I do not want to take away from that. Alvin Kamara deserves the money he's got, especially based off the year he's had thus far. But let's put that into context. Let's not freak out on deals, especially for these top players. Top players get top dollar. That being said, your thoughts on the Alvin signing, because this definitely hits home for you.
If this was 31 other teams signing a contract or a running back to not just a second contract, but a third contract, hitting late 20s, hitting 30s, I would say you're dumb. You're stupid. I am not a believer in paying running backs, especially when you just drafted a third-round pick last year. That being said, it's my football team, and Alvin Kamara means so much to me personally. I'm fine with it. I understand that I'm an optimist. I want the cap situation to be filled out in 1 year, and I just don't think that's the route that's going to happen. I don't think they're just going to tear it down 1 year and detonate the building, because I think there's just enough to blame with the injuries. Alvin is hurt too. He said in the press conference he has a broken hand. He's playing through it. So, he wanted to be there. The Saints wanted to have him. Let's meet in the middle so you can retire a Saint. That means something to me. So, I'm okay. I'm all for it. If it was any other team, I'd be like, why are you doing this? But it hits home. It's personal to me. So that's kind of my take.
There you go. Yeah, I agree. He's kind of been the only stable part of that entire offense for the last 6 years or
You need
what,
someone to sell
6
tickets, right?
And it's not Rattler, that's for sure. We'll get into that. So now I'm just gonna go through. Like I said, we've had like a slew of injuries / people being suspended. So I'm gonna read through all of them, and then I'll let you say your piece on all of them. So Chris Godwin, he broke, I think it was his ankle, but he had a really, really bad like lower body injury. I'm pretty sure it was his ankle. Broke his ankle. He's out for the season. Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL. He's out for the season. Rashid Shaheed out for the season with a meniscus injury. Debo was hospitalized for pneumonia, which is like wild. You do not usually see that in athletes. Watson popped his Achilles, so he's done for the season. And then both DK and Mike Evans left the game as well. I don't know kind of the long-term status on either of those guys, but I'm assuming they will be back. Mike is definitely going to be out for a little bit longer. And then Jameson Williams, is out for 2 games for a PED suspension. That's performance-enhancing drug suspension. So he's out for 2 games as well. So we've just had like a slew of injuries over the last week, because all of this stuff is, well, outside of the Rashid Shaheed stuff, all of this stuff in the Godwin, DK, Mike Evans, Watson, Debo, all that stuff had happened like in this 1 week of football, which is absolutely wild to see this many star name players get hurt. But what are your thoughts on the injuries? And then I have a final thought on obviously Watson.
Yeah. See, it's hard to comment on the Godwin injury, because I know most people are just gonna say but it's a 10-point game with 40 seconds, just take him out of the game. And NFL players aren't wired like that. Todd Bowles said it on the sideline. He said everyone in that huddle wanted to be on the field if they could be on the field. It was just violent game, violent moment happened. That's kind of the way, and it sucks. And watching the video, if you haven't seen it, he sits on the back of the cart with the air cast. He says back to work. So I have no doubt Chris Godwin's going to come back, and he's going to be better than ever. Brandon Ayuk, this is a weird one because he did get his money. So, no one wants to get injured, but if this was one of those, like a Debo, he broke his leg for the Saints, he's in a contract year. What does that mean for him? Where Ayuk got paid before the season, he was a huge holdout. He got his money before the season. You hate to see him go down. I feel like it affects the 49ers Super Bowl chances, of course, but overall, could be worse for Brandon Ayuk, as saying that as a person when he's making hundreds of $1 millions now. And then the Deshaun Watson one. That's the hardest one to talk about because, he has a lot of off the field stuff that I feel like we don't need to discuss on the podcast. Someone on Fox Sports, I don't know his name. I tried to find the clip. I tried to find his name. I really wanted to. He had an excellent talking point about it.
Yes.
He kind of said, Jameis Winston after the game and Myles Garrett too, kind of called the victim card on Deshaun Watson. And in this situation, he said, you know what? Nobody's right. The fans booing a man tearing his Achilles, playing football. That's not right. I think they were more cheering for the fact that they were going to get better at quarterback, more so than Deshaun Watson. But again, he's not the cleanest. Which Myles Garrett went on the stand and said, the press conference and said he's been as clean as a whistle. Was that the quote? Something like that from college.
He said outstanding. He said outstanding citizen in all of college, and then most of his NFL career. And most is doing a lot of the
lot of the holding. That's what I don't want to take his credit because it's an excellent 2 minutes. If you find it, but it's hard. it's weird to talk about because I might have come on this podcast and said the best case scenario for the Browns is that Deshaun Watson gets hurt, and that happened, and they are going to get better at quarterback theoretically, and that has to be a good thing for Cleveland fans and Cleveland, anyone who covers the team. But overall, like, clearly those guys care about him as a person, as a football player, and maybe I said that Deshaun Watson doesn't care about playing football, and he was on that cart breaking down in tears. So I can't say that he doesn't care. It's just a weird thing to talk about, but we needed to talk about it because it is very important football news. So
it is, yeah. So the 2 points here, and kind of the two final things I want to say before we move on here, and I don't want to speculate, obviously, but with the Brandon Ayuk thing, like, holdout hammy, it's a term used in kind of sports and all sports. Holdout hammies, that's when someone holds out for the entire, training camp and practices and everything before the season happens, and then you come into the games I don't say unprepared, but like you didn't go through all that training. You didn't go through all that practice. So how prepared was your body to actually play football? And given this happened in week 8 or week 9 or what, week 7, 8, and not like week 1 or 2. But I wonder how much of him not going through that entire off-season program contributes to something like this. Mm-hmm. And then with the whole Deshaun Watson stuff, again, it's like you said, a really, really tricky situation to talk about because of all the off-the-field stuff. But from a strictly football point of view, like you said, as a Browns fan, you have to be – obviously we don't risk any – or we don't, wish any ill intent or injury or harm on anyone. But as a Browns fan, you have to be happy because, like you said, you're upgrading at quarterback. So – it's going to be an interesting season. And Jameis, he is definitely full of a lot of fun quotes. As you alluded to, he talked a lot on he gave like a whole 2.5 minute stuff on that. You can go and find it. As you said, you can go and find that Fox stuff talking about it and whatnot. But those were the news over the last 2 weeks. Hopefully we have a less injured week for everyone. And please. We can go ahead and we can, yes, please. And then we can go ahead and we can get into a weekly review, kind of looking at all the games that have happened this past week. And we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football. Broncos versus Saints. The Broncos absolutely, they blew them out even in the box score. The Broncos won 33-10, but that box score does not even show how far apart that game was. Yeah. These guys stepped onto the field and it felt like they were playing two completely different games at this point. I mean, and this is again what I alluded to with the Spencer Rattler stuff. He just did not look ready to play the game. It was bad. No. So
yeah, I mean, as a fan, it's been my third straight week turning the game off early. So that was a bummer to me. If you know me, I am completely out on the coach, period. I don't know if the Saints are. I hope they are, but never know. It felt like they quit. And they finally quit on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball the last few years with Dennis Allen has been abysmal. It's kind of been the mid-tier to bad. We know to expect. But that defense, as they get older and older and older, they still have fight. They still, give a crap, and they play hard. And that game, they didn't feel like it. There was one where I just, I threw my hands up. There was, it was like a right side, outside zone kind of thing. And you watch Brian Brzee, he, stops pushing through a block, and if he pushes through a block, that's like a 2-yard gain. Instead, Javonte Williams hits it, and it's 20 yards. And I was like, all right, yep, these guys are done. And so, as a fan, it feels bleak. It feels rock bottom, man. We feel as close to it as we can be. Reading articles about how nobody has it worse than the Saints the next 5 years, and I can't disagree. It sucks, but overall, I got the devil and the angel on my shoulder going, one side is going, tank. Like the angel is like tank. Let's be bad. Let's get a good pick. The devil's like, oh, we're getting healthier. What if we win, Like what if we win some games? Because I like watching the Saints win. But
Yeah.
I'm leaning to the left shoulder going, I hope we lose. I hope we give a damn this week about tackling. I want to see some tackling drills, but overall, the Saints are an issue in my life right now.
Yes. And the big thing, too, is like the stark difference between the first 2 weeks of the team, and obviously a lot has to do with Derek Carr. But like the first 2 weeks of this team and how good y'all looked the first 2 weeks compared to the last 5. And it just doesn't look like the same team, man.
It's one of those things that, like, no one player makes or breaks a team, but ironically enough, the first drive of the Eagles game, our center, Eric McCoy, all-pro center, Pro Bowl center, maybe not all-pro, but, like, the best, most steady part of our offensive line went down, and he's been on IR since, and the run game has just not been the same since. So there's belief that if he comes back, maybe you can put the puzzle pieces back together, but at the same time, it's too late. 5 straight losses to, like there's some winnable games. You're winning in the final 30 seconds against the Falcons. You're holding the Eagles inside their own territory, and 2 60-yard plays make their game, and just too many winnable games that they lost throughout this stretch that I feel like it is too late. And that sucks as a fan to be at that point in week 8. But here we are.
Yeah, and again, it hurts that I don't want to say the one guy, because again, you have Chris and you have Alvin, but like that big play threat, of everyone in the offense was Rashid Shaheed, and he's out. And
brought in MVS. MVS is here to save the day.
Yeah, sure. But it's bleak. That is for sure. Sorry for you, buddy. I think this is going to be a tough year, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But moving on to Sunday, it's going to be our London game. The Jaguars beat the Patriots 32-16, and I think Tank and Brian Thomas saved Doug Peterson his job. And I'm not saying that he won't get fired later in the season. I'm not saying Doug won't get fired at the end of the season, but it looked like there was a chance Doug Peterson was not going to come back to the U.S., the head coach of the Jags. But Tank Bigsby and Brian Thomas had other plans for that, and they absolutely popped off. And I don't know, even with ETN being fully healthy, how you can give the ball back to him as your bell cow back after looking at the performance Tank just had, because it was electric and it was fun to watch. But your thoughts?
There was a stretch, because I watched it. I didn't, wake up at the allotted time. I kind of woke up in the middle of it and skipped commercials. That's the way to do the London game. Always 100%. The way to do it. But wake up like an hour late, and then you'll skip commercials. But there was a stretch in that third to fourth quarter switch that they ran the ball 18 straight times, I think. It was insane, and it was working. It was like productive runs. It wasn't just running for the sake of running. They were really gashing the Patriots defense, that it led to Gerard Mayo calling his own players soft in the run defense. Yeah, I think you made a great point. I think he did save his job for the moment, not for the whole season. Trevor Lawrence looked better, when guys aren't dropping, when you don't have a 10% drop rate from your receivers that he has had this season, it looks much better. People don't watch Trevor Lawrence as much as I do, so I understand. But just overall, they looked better. Their defense looked a little bit better. Drake May moved the football, so I'm still not, with a bad offensive line and really, frankly, bad receiving core, playmakers wise, but overall, I think it was a step in the right direction for the Jaguars. They win a game, good for them.
Exactly. Congratulations. We're winning games finally. But yeah, Gerard Mayo was going in on Jalen Polk. He was not having it. He was saying he's playing soft, and like Jalen Polk even had like posted stuff after the game about he was not having it. So we'll see kind of how that culture continues under Gerard Mayo, and they're already like a big portion of that Patriots fan who's already calling for his job. And
yeah, there's rumors. There's rumors that like he could be one and done.
Which is wild because we knew that this team was going to be bad. It's not like we came in and we expected this team to be the Patriots of old. We came in and we said that this team is going to be a bottom 5 team in all of football. And we still have Patriots fans calling for his job with one of the worst rosters in all of football. Besides the point, we can talk about the Patriots all day. Moving on to maybe the best game of the entire week. The Lions beat the Vikings 31-29. It looks like the Vikings like sealed that game. And then the last minute, Detroit did Detroit things. Jared Goff has been put on an absolute clinic the last 3 weeks. He went 22 of 25 over the last 3 weeks. I think he's thrown a whopping 10 completions over the 3 games, which is absolutely wild. Again, we knew this game was going to be fun to watch, and it absolutely lived up to the hype. It was super, super fun to watch. And for the first time, maybe all season, Amon-Ra finally started to look like Amon-Ra, the guy we were super excited to see. And it was awesome. It was awesome. And this is why the Detroit Lions will, right now, they're my pick to come out of the NFC. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't tell you enough how like proud I am of Jared Goff as he's gotten older. Like, remember there was a time there. The reason he got traded was because he couldn't handle the heat. He couldn't handle pressure. He got skittish in the pocket. This game, I think he was like 10 for 11 against blitzes, against pressures. Yeah. He was unbelievable. And he stood in there and he makes all the throws he possibly can. The one down the seam to Amon-Ra early enough in the game that gave them a big score. Just beautiful stuff. He looked awesome. There was like one decision that the Vikings made, and I know it would have been like critiqued, but I'm ultra aggressive when it comes to that. They had a 4th and 4 in their own territory in field goal range. And 3 timeouts, about 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I was like, go for it. If you don't get it, you get a stop, they take a field goal, you still got timeouts. You still got a chance to win the game. Instead, they punted it. Detroit kind of took their time on the last drive and set up a game-winning field goal without giving them a chance to rebuttal in that. So I was kind of like, man, let's be aggressive there. Like, we have the ball. Let's go win the game. I'm always going to be like that with offense. But overall, fantastic game. Both these teams are going to be there in the end, likely, with the way the NFC is shaking out with injuries and just overall talent. But it was a phenomenal game, and they get to play one more time this year. So we all get to circle that one now.
Exactly. Titans versus Bills in a game that we saw Mason Rudolph play the entire game. They were kind of already fed up with the Will Levis. You might have already kind of thrown in the flag on that experiment. For me, there's not a whole lot to talk about. The Bills absolutely blew them out of the water, 34-10. It's kind of exactly what you would have expected from a Josh Allen versus Mason Rudolph game.
Yeah, Bills good, Titans bad. The only thing I remember from this game, because, you have the red zone on the little screen on YouTube TV, the only thing I remember is that Nick Westbrook-Akine scored the first touchdown and James Cook didn't, and it cost me money. So that's the only thing I remember from this game. But overall, Bills good, Titans bad. Next.
Yep, exactly. And continuing on to a very easy game with not much to talk about. The Colts end up beating the Dolphins 16-10. And again, until Tua comes back, which could be this week, this Dolphins team is nothing.
Not to be taken seriously.
Exactly. They have not shown to be able to get literally anything done on offense without him. Again, I think there's a high likely chance that Tua is back.
Yeah, he's practicing in full on Wednesday. So I think it's pretty much. I think he's going to have no injury status for the game. Yeah, to be honest.
So, you will see if this Dolphins offense can get back on track with him, because it has been very, very bleak without them. Seahawks versus Falcons. Seahawks ended up winning 34-14. This is, I think, kind of what we're going to get out of the Falcons for the entire season. We'll see them have amazing games like we did against the Bucs, which is ironic because they're playing them this week. And then we'll see games against the Seahawks where Kirk Cousins throws 2 interceptions and it seems like they're, are outmatched and not even in the game. Again, Kirk did not look good at all. Kirk kind of looked like week 1 Kirk. It was rough to watch from the standpoint of the Falcons in general, but Bijan finally looks like he is on track to be that guy we would have all hoped. It's only took 7 weeks into the season to see that, but at least we could say Bijan looked good in this game.
Yeah. I feel like the Falcons are weird because I feel like it's weird. Like, whenever he gets out quarterbacked, you can just tell and the game is over. And that's how it felt in this game. Like, Geno was the better quarterback from the first snap. And they lost. And I don't know. Like you said, I think you said it perfectly. They're just going to flip-flop. And now this week they have a huge game against Tampa Bay, who is now short-manned on the receiver's position. You got to win this game. If you can beat them twice in the same year, you get that tiebreaker, and you get the edge over them now. I think it's huge that they don't flop this week. I mean, if it's flip-flopping, then they should be flipping this week. But overall, they just felt outmatched. And good for me as a fan of the Saints, but at the same time, I like Kirk Cousins. I want to see him succeed, but, it's what it is. 36 years old.
Exactly. Yep. Texans versus Packers. The Packers end up winning a close one, 24-20 over the Texans. The offense finally looks good for the Texans with Joe Mixon. I remember you coming on the podcast not too long ago talking about how right now it kind of seems like that offense is very, very reliant and kind of hinges on how well Joe Mixon is going to be. And Joe Mixon looked good, and they still end up losing the game. But then on the Packers side, I mean, it's only his second year starting fully. So we still need to give him time, and they ended up winning the game, like I said. But Jordan Love is still all over the place right now.
Baby.
Exactly. 3 touchdowns, which is awesome. 2 interceptions, though. But if they can kind of reel him in a little bit and take that Brett Favre-ness away from him a little bit, maybe they can start kind of looking like they did the final 8 weeks of the season last year. But it was a fun game to keep an eye on. Again, everything here in the 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock slate for me, I spent a lot of that time focusing on the Eagles. But did you pay attention to this game or watch any of it?
Yeah, I mean, Stroud looked in handcuffs the entire game. It just felt like anything downfield, it was not going to happen. And this really shows how, Nico Collins is the number 1 receiver, and he might be the most important receiver on any football team at this point, because the last few weeks passing the ball, CJ Stroud has been very underwhelming. I'll just say underwhelming. I don't want to say bad because he's not turning the ball over, but underwhelming is the best way I can put it. Yeah, I mean, Wiseman said Joe Mixon makes or breaks this offense. He's been pretty productive, and then Jordan Love, you mentioned it. I mean, he's just a daredevil. He could have had 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. You see the one to Tucker Kraft where it went through Kalen Bullock's hands and went right in to Tucker Kraft for a touchdown, an early touchdown in the game. And I was like, man, do you understand how close that is to just change in the football game? But they end up winning. He has the game-winning drive in his own territory. Good on Jordan Love. Stay in that NFC North hunt with everyone being 4-2 or better, being one of the greatest divisions we've ever seen.
It's an absolute dogfight, and I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I wouldn't be surprised now if everyone in
you think all 4.
I think it's possible if everyone continues to do it as long as they don't cannibalize each other.
It'd be insane.
That's the concern with that division, is if they cannibalize each other and kind of knock each other out of the playoff race. But right now, like you're saying, it's one of the best divisions, kind of historically speaking, through this point in the season. It is absolutely wild. Speaking of another division where whenever these guys play each other in this division, it is always going to be a close game. Bengals versus Browns, like we said, Deshaun won out pretty early in this game. It was closer than what I would have liked to see, especially with the team that lost their starting quarterback, given, as we've talked about, the quarterback play probably got better, even with their starting quarterback being out, but the Bengals end up pulling away 21-14. This game wasn't very fun to watch. And
you keep in mind that 21, they scored an opening drive touchdown, or an opening kickoff.
Yeah.
Like the first play from scrimmage, they scored a touchdown and only won by 7 points against a team who lost their starting quarterback in the second quarter. So it's like, you know, it is what it is. Like, you know, you get the W and you move on, but I think it's still just a testament to the Browns defense still being pretty good against someone like Cincinnati. I think they just wake up to play Cincinnati and they're just happy to play Cincinnati, to be honest. Like, division games are just like that in that division. So I'm not taking too much stock in it. Like, the last few weeks, it's been a flip-flop. The Bengals offense was awesome while they were losing. And now they're winning, and their defense is playing really good, but their offense has been lame. But you win 2 road games in the NFL, you don't apologize for how you win them. So you get the win.
Exactly. Exactly. Eagles versus Giants. We love to see it again. Obviously, the game I spent that 1 o'clock / noon slate watching. Eagles absolutely whooped on the Giants, 28-3. Absolutely love it. Saquon did exactly what I would have hoped Saquon to do in his return to MetLife. It was very, very fun for me to watch. The defense finally woke up a little bit and pretty much allowed the Giants offense to do absolutely nothing to the point that, like, a majority of the fourth quarter, both second-team offenses were in at that point. Malik Neighbors will have you think that he was open despite the score, which is absolutely not true. Quinyon absolutely. Watch it. Quinyon
he told me to.
He's open. Locked him down. Fun game for me again. But outside of my fandom, again, I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about that offense.
The only takeaway I have from this game is I had the red zone on in the corner. Every time they brought up the Giants on offense, Daniel Jones was getting sacked. Like, every time.
8 sacks. 8 sacks. They finally woke up.
Every time Scott Hansen was like, let's pan to New York, it was just a Daniel Jones drop back, and there's Jalen Carter. There's Jordan Davis. It was every time. It was making me crack up. I knew you were having a great time. Saquon, that meant something to him. I don't know if you saw the clip. I hope you did.
Yep.
But Sirianni asked him about the career high, and he said no.
10 yards away. Yeah.
Let the boys finish it out. I came what I wanted. I came for what I wanted. You know, we embarrassed them. You know, I looked up at the Maras and said, you know, good choice. You know, now I'm here. But overall, I think it was fun for you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And exactly, that clip is, for those who don't know what he's referring to, Nick Sirianni kind of walked Saquon kind of at the start of the fourth quarter and was like, hey, like, you're very, very close to setting your single game rushing record. Like, we will absolutely let you do it. It's time in the game for you to do it. Do you want to go back in? Like, the rest of the offense is sitting, but we can go back in and let you break it. And he said, no, let the young guys eat. And I love that too. Like, I love that he did that. We're absolutely here for it. And how he got one GM fired for the AJ Brown trade, and he might get Joe Shane fired for this one. So, but moving on to another game that you talked about, again, a game in which I don't think there's a whole lot of takeaways. But if there's anything you want to talk about, you absolutely can. The Rams end up beating the Raiders 20-15. Kind of a game that we thought it was going to be like. The Rams didn't look fantastic at all. but they're not going to until Cooper Kupp and Puka are back. But they got a tough win and continue to win, and that's all you can ask them to do.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing people really cared about this game, I'll speak from my own personal experience. All I cared about was if Kyron Williams was going to cash a touchdown, like a touchdown. That's all I cared about. You know, I don't think we have to lie about it and say, you know, we went in depth on this game. No, Rams took care of business. They were the better team. You know, Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb or something. You know, bummer for him. We missed it in the injury news. Same with Jaden Daniels, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Poo-poo on us, but I mean, Gardner Minshew came back in. They hadn't. Antonio Pierce, I think he just wants to cover spreads. Because I don't know if you saw this, but it was like 4th and goal from the 7, down by 8, 3 timeouts before the 2-minute warning. He kicked a field goal, and the spread was 5.5, and so they lost by 5. I don't know if he's taking the spreads or not, but let's look at Antonio Pierce's. You know,
they're in Vegas.
Yeah, there you go.
Just saying, a little fishy. Moving on to the biggest blowout of the entire week, the Commanders versus the Panthers, 40-7. As you had mentioned, Jane Daniels got hurt in this game, rib injury. It's nothing that's going to impact him for like a long portion of the season. He's probably not going to play. He might have already officially been ruled out. I don't know if he's officially been ruled out, but I'd be very, very surprised if he does play against the Bears this week. Mariota actually kind of looked like a competent quarterback, which was weird to see from an Eagles fan because he was on our team last year. And Andy Dalton, shocker, did not look good. He had 2 interceptions, like 98 yards passing. Again, it's just going to be a rough season if you're a Panthers fan. But really my only takeaway from this is hopefully Jane Daniels can get back on the football field. Again, it's not like they need him, but it was against the Panthers. So we'll see how it goes. But not really anything important outside of the Jane Daniels thing happened this game.
It was a big day for the 2015 draft class. Mariota played great. Dante Fowler got a pick 6. I mean, what a day for them in Washington. That was the only thing that I was like, that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. They're on the same team, but yeah, I mean, hopefully Jaden's okay. I would love for him to play, but again, if they're 5-2, if they need to kind of schedule a loss here against the Bears, I wouldn't put it against them. I feel like the NFL would be pretty upset where they flex the games. They change the schedule.
Yeah. And they flexed this Eagles game like out of it. So it was actually Eagles versus Bengals, and then like 2 weeks ago they flexed them out and put this game in just for Jane Daniels to get hurt. So, moving on to the next game, a game that before the season started you kind of had circled on your calendar, the Chiefs versus Niners. Chiefs end up winning 28-18 in maybe the worst quarterback performance game from both quarterbacks in the entire week. Patrick Mahomes did not look good. 154 yards, 2 interceptions. Brock Purdy, 212 yards and 3 interceptions. Is Brock Purdy a product of his talent on offense?
Yes.
Who knows? But that is definitely going to be a conversation, national pundits and even us are going to have throughout the rest of the season. But really, there was one big takeaway from me was that Chiefs defense, but I don't want to get too much into it because I know this is your talking point and this is kind of what you wanted to talk about with this game. So
that defense, it might be the best defense in the NFL at this point because, just at all 3 levels, they have a superstar, it feels like to me. Chris Jones is a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year candidate, where he was like, they pointed it out. I think Brady, who's on the call, pointed out, he points who he's going to face, and he just goes right at him all game long, and he just creates pressures, he creates interceptions. Nick Bolton is always finding the football in run fits, in coverage, whatever, and then you have a number 1 corner, not L'Jarius Sneed. You traded him away. You have Trent McDuffie. That's why you're able to trade L'Jarius Sneed away, and he's been fantastic. And then you have guys like Jaden Hicks, who they drafted in the 4th round, who we loved as draft guys, and he's making an impact for the Chiefs already. Like, it's just put a DB with Spags, and they're gonna, figure it out. They're one of a kind, man. It really is unique stuff that they're doing, and it helps that the other team loses Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel has pneumonia of all things, but overall they smothered the Niners, and they were supposed to, and just give them credit for that. That's all you need to do.
Yep. Again, this defense is absolutely wild under Spags. I couldn't have said it any better. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, Jets versus Steelers, a game in which pretty much everyone across the NFL was given, kind of the question mark to Mike Tomlin, asking why are we benching Justin Fields when he has looked very, very good, and kind of going to this washed quarterback in Russ. But Russ stepped in and played very good, quite frankly, and he shocked me. Steelers end up winning 37-15. Again, already people are saying this trade didn't make any sense. I had said it at the top of the episode. Do give it time. Obviously, he was like in that system for 5-6 days, but it was rough. Aaron Rodgers does not look good, and he kind of needs to figure stuff out, or the season is going to start to spiral on them very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that was a flashback for performance for Russ. Just the moon ball, the downfield, just like, let me give my guy a 50-50, and with George Pickens, it's more 60-40. And he just won every single time. And it was awesome for, to hijack the Jets moment, I feel like was like cool for me. Because like it felt like that whole pregame was all about Rodgers and Adams. They're back together. And it was kind of like, hey, this team is still like quietly the toughest team to play on the road. And they smothered them. They smothered them. Like I said with the Chiefs. They had a blocked kick that got taken away, and it created 2 points for the Jets. Didn't matter. Beanie Bishop, West Virginia Mountaineer, had 2 interceptions in this game. That was unreal because I remember watching him in the draft and saying, you're slow and short. You will never play in the NFL. And he's getting 2 interceptions on Sunday Night Primetime. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But just overall, like it was a flashback performance for Russ. And again, Tomlin just adds to the, I just win. Give me my respect. I just win. And Mike Tomlin, you do not win playoff games, so no respect yet.
I have to throw that in there. Moving on to the double Monday night games that we had. Again, I still can't get behind the double Monday night games. Not a fan of it. Not a fan. But the first of the 2 Monday night games, Ravens versus Bucks. The Ravens end up winning 41-31. Lamar Jackson is probably going to win his 3rd MVP in 6 years. Looks absolutely amazing, throwing 5 touchdowns. There's a little bit of like a moral panic going on through the first couple games that maybe Mark Andrews is washed and he's not, that guy we thought, and maybe has taken a small step backwards, but he caught 2 touchdowns this game. Lamar threw 5 touchdowns. But as you were telling me, it's a little hard to see your boy Zay kind of regress a little bit, but your thoughts on the game?
When I say this, like, I don't want to say it like sounds too literally, but like Lamar Jackson, the way he's developed as a passer and what we already know as a runner, he might be the greatest talent we've ever seen at the quarterback position. Just like pure talent. I don't think we've ever seen someone like him. Like, just overall, like Todd Bowles' game plan was like, I'm going to throw in some funky zones and blitzes, and you're not going to know where these guys are. He threw 14 for 16 against the blitz and won it and got anything he wanted. And that was without Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had 4 carries in the first half. Efficient carries, like 6 yards a carry, but 4 carries for Derrick Henry. It wasn't just like coasting on my run game. He was truly throwing the ball down the field to, not even Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers didn't catch a single downfield pass. It was Bateman. It was Aguilar. It was Andrews. It was Likely. Like, it's just what he's doing with lower on the tier board talent, and he just makes it look so easy against a defense that, frankly, looked menacing against the Saints. It's just, he's one of a kind, man. He's unbelievable. Every time I watch him, and every time I get mad because I really wanted to pick him in 2018 with the Saints, but just as a fan. But like as a neutral football enjoyer, him on the Ravens is so much fun. I really hope at some point he cracks through that glass ceiling and makes a Super Bowl, because there's no one in the NFL I want to root for to win a Super Bowl more than Lamar Jackson. I'll say that.
I could not agree more with you. Besides that, greatest talent we've seen all time.
Yeah.
Same vein, greatest. I mean, I don't know if I've said this take before. Not a good person, obviously. I still think it's Mike Vick. I still think Mike Vick is the greatest talent we've seen on a football field ever. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Lamar Jackson in the same mold, in this running quarterback who's now learning how to throw the football down the field, I don't think he's too far off. Yeah. And maybe when it's all said and done, I could get behind that take.
Yeah.
Last game of the week, not a lot of fun in this game. Again, most people probably didn't even watch this game. Most people were over there watching that Ravens-Buccaneers game. But the Chargers versus Cardinals end up winning this game 17-15. Again, there's not a whole lot in this game for me to be too excited about. But my main takeaway was kind of the trade scenario that you were talking to me and Ryan about.
Yeah, what if Cooper Kupp doesn't leave the city? He just goes to the other team. I think that'd be awesome. Justin Herbert, get him a
He needs help.
We're not doing this on Monday Night Football. They hit it on ESPN Plus. They knew what they were doing. Will Dissly caught the ball 8 times.
What are we
doing? Justin Herbert threw for 349 yards, 0 touchdowns, and Jalen Reagor jump scared the whole world when nobody knew he was on the Chargers, and he just gets a 50-yard bomb and a touchback fumble, in the span of 3 seconds. Get him a receiver, Harbaugh. Come on. I get you want to run the rock. I get it, but he is a superhero. Let's let him get a superhero receiver. You know, let's give him his Robin. You know what I'm saying? Like let's make a run at this. But who knows?
Luther would be fun.
Are they going to be bad enough to get Luther?
I don't know. Yeah.
Because that's. I mean, talking about the draft, just for there's very few guys in a low, top, what's the word? It's not so top heavy. Luther Burden is one of those players that I feel confident about being good. So it's like, how far does he fall? I don't know.
He is very firmly wide receiver 3 for me as we speak.
Really?
But we have plenty of time to get into draft talk. Really quickly. I mean, as we know, Tetero guy, hand up, Tetero guy.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. All right, we will move on to our next segment here, guys.
Just when you thought it was safe to play the underdog, we put you on Upset Alert.
Yes. So we'll get into kind of the teams that we think could be an upset alert before we get into the big overall pigskin pick'em for the entire week. I got 5 teams for you. I can go ahead and start. I have, and this is going to be a hot one, the Vikings versus the Rams. If Cooper Kupp comes back and we see that connection that we saw week 1 with Kupp and Matt Stafford, I'm not completely ruling it out. I'm not saying I'm picking the Rams, but just a team to maybe watch to upset or cover the spread or something. The next one, kind of in that same vein, not going to say it's going to happen, but something to watch. The Packers and Jags. Again, that Jags offense just looked different with Tanks Bigsby as the lead back, but we had just talked about that. So Cardinals versus Dolphins. I think there's a chance it takes a little bit of time for Tua to get reacclimated into this offense. As we said, this offense has not looked good through, the last 5 games or 4 games or whatever it's been. Jets versus Patriots. This offense actually kind of looks like they have something with Drake May, despite a very bad offensive line and despite a very, very bad receiving room. And then the last one with the Cowboys and Niners, I could just really see this game going either way. But I'm going to let you talk about this. I'm going to turn my camera off here really quickly so I can go deal with something here, guys.
Yeah, I only have 2. I only have, you mentioned both of them, the Jets and Patriots. I don't know. Just fading the Jets feels right at this point. And the Patriots on offense looked good in London. I feel like there's a fire there with Gerard Mayo now. Let's fire up. Let's beat this team who embarrassed us in Week 3 on Thursday Night Football. We're at that point of the year, sadly, as football fans, where they've played 2 teams have played twice a year, and then the other one was Dallas. I think Dallas could win this outright pretty easily. Maybe that's ignorant because of what we've seen the Niners do on that home field against them in the past, but I'm confident in Dak versus Purdy. I'm just taking the better quarterback there, and everyone else will figure it out.
Which is wild to say through this point in the season, especially with I don't say how bad, but Dak has not lived up to the contract that we would have hoped, and that's easy to say with how much money he's gotten, but he has not played good. But
I easily could see a game where Jordan Mason just has 20 carries and he has 150 yards, and I wouldn't be shocked by it. But
with how bad this Cowboys run defense is, I wouldn't be surprised.
If Dallas can get a lead early and make Purdy chase points, I feel good about it.
Yes, I agree. All right,
because that was last week. I mean, that was the last week's game.
I agree. Here, give me 1 second here, guys.
You think you know football? Well, prove it. This is Pigskin Pick'em.
All right, we'll get into the Pigskins Pick'em. Sorry, we're sharing a bathroom, me and my girlfriend, so she was running back and forth. That's what that was about, guys. I apologize there. But getting into that Thursday night game. Sorry, let me close this door so you don't have to hear the toilet running. Just elite level podcasting from all of us here at the Pigskin Project. Ryan wants me to let you guys know he won last week. He went on an absolute tear. He went 12-3 in Pigskin Pick'em. I went 10-5, which is not bad in my own right. But I'm trying to make up ground here, and Ryan is making it very, very difficult, bringing the overall record through this point in the season to 66-39 for Ryan and 60-45 for me. Again, both good records, but I need to start climbing back a little bit. It was at this point in the season last year where Ryan was still up, kind of around eight games last year, I think. This is when I started chipping away. So I need to start doing that. But again, starting with the game this week, I'm going to have the Vikings win. I knew I put this team on upset alert. But like I said, I'm going to have the Vikings win. I'm going to have the Rams cover. And Ryan also has the Vikings win, and he actually put in the notes the Rams to cover as well. So there you go. We are both kind of thinking in the same mind there. But who do you have winning this one? I'm
going to take the Rams. I think there was a real meaningful reason why Cooper Kupp didn't play on Sunday, and Puka Nacua is questionable. What if both the boys come back this week? I feel like they're really going for it if they bring them both out. And I like what their defense has done the last few weeks. Since that Cardinals outburst, they've been really good defensively. They contain Jordan Love. Just overall, I like what they've done. I think if they can make this just give you a puncher's chance in the end, I trust Stafford against Brian Flores' defense, because against Brian Flores, you got to be a daredevil. You got to be willing to just launch footballs to your best players, and I think Stafford's going to have those guys available.
Yes. Again, you're doing what I don't have the cojones to do. Again, I had this team on upset, really, really wanted to pick the Rams. I just couldn't, but I'm glad someone did.
Yeah.
Moving on to that noon 1 o'clock slate here. Packers versus Jags. I'd be shocked if we don't all agree on this one, but maybe you'll throw another curveball at me. I have the Packers winning. Ryan has the Packers winning. Are you going to have the Packers winning?
Oh, you know how badly I want to fade the Packers here with my beloved Jaguars, but I'm going to go with the Packers. I think what I saw last week, I don't want to bet against the NFC North right now, period. I think that's it, you know.
As
the
you
Jaguars are a London team, so we'll just go with that.
There you go. Moving on to the Cardinals at the Dolphins. Ryan actually has the Cardinals winning this one. Again, this is another game out on upset alert, but I am going to kind of weenie out here. I am going to have the Dolphins winning this one. I think with Tua back, I do think we're going to see this offense kind of getting back to where they were before. I don't think it's going to be like elite level right away, but I think we're going to start seeing those wide receivers getting more involved again. I think we're going to start seeing A-Chain kind of get back up to where he was the first couple weeks of the season. So I'm going to have the Dolphins win this one. And again, Ryan has the Cardinals winning.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Dolphins. Plus, you know, I'll give the Cardinals the points. I think it's 3.5 too. I like the Dolphins. Just win by 6. You know, something like that. I really think it'll be a stark difference when Tua's back in there. I just have that belief in their offense and their scheme when he's in there that they just know what they're going to do. They know where to be in the right spot for Tua, and there was a reason they held him out probably a few extra weeks than maybe anticipated, you know. I really thought he would just stay on IR for 4 weeks, I'll be honest. But here he is playing after 6. I know it's shocking some people, but he's a competitor. He's a fighter.
No, I absolutely agree. Jets at Patriots, a game I had as upset alert. The game I will actually pick the underdog in the upset to actually happen. I'm having Drake May get his first win as a Patriot. We're here for it. And, you know, you talked about belief there. I have no belief in the Jets whatsoever right now at this point in the season. And, again, it could flip and it could change. But it's hard for me to pick the Jets to win anything.
Yeah, I'll wimp. I'll go with Jets. I think the Patriots probably cover because of how just bad that defense has looked the last few weeks, but I'm just going to take the Jets. I think the Jets took care of business week 3. I think they'll do it again. They need the game more, period.
Yeah, they definitely need it more, but Mayo might be fighting for his job already at this point in the season, again, which is something wild to say. And Ryan is riding with you. Ryan is going with the Jets as well. Moving on to another game that I would be very surprised if all of us did not agree on. Ravens at the Browns. Again, we've covered it. These in-division games here can be a little tight, but with the way Lamar has been playing and kind of with the Browns where they're at, kind of just as an organization, I feel like it would almost be malpractice to not pick the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Ravens, done. I think they're the hottest team in football right now. Just outright. I'll pick them against any football team, truly, at this point.
There you go. Moving on to the Eagles and a game that was originally supposed to be the game of the week, and then they flexed it out for, sadly, the rookies. Eagles versus Bengals. Ryan is fading my Eagles. Obviously, I'm going to pick. I think they're about to go on a run. I said it to you guys. I think the offense is finding their footing. Gio the last couple weeks is finding his footing, given again defenses he's been playing against. But with the way the Bengals have looked and the way the Eagles have looked the last 2 weeks, I'd be remiss to not pick the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to ride with you. I think the Eagles are going to win.
Yes. We love to see that. And I think AJ, obviously, you had mentioned it with Nico. I think, obviously, AJ and Nico are up there in the same tier of guys that, like, has such a big impact on the game, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks with AJ being back. And honestly, this might be a game that I'm going to have maybe a little bit of money on Devontae Smith taking the over. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on covering AJ, covering Saquon. And that might leave Devontae Smith open to kind of cook a little bit.
After last week.
Again, after last week where he even didn't do much in his own right, but that's besides the point. Yes. Another in-division game here, Texans versus Colts. Ryan's going Texans. I am going Texans. We've said it again a couple of times on this podcast. AR has not even done the stuff we had to look like. Not even the E passes, and until he can do that, I'm probably not going to get Colts. So
this one's tough. It truly is tough because like the last few weeks have been rough for both of them, for both Stroud and Richardson. So it's just like, I don't know. I'll lead with the favorite.
But who do you have more confidence in?
It's got to be Stroud. It's got to be D'Amico Ryans, But again, like Shane Steichen, I love what he can cook up. But yeah, I'll go with the Texans. I mean, they're my Super Bowl pick, so let's just ride with them. I might pick them every week, just no matter what, if I'm on the show. just to ride.
I feel like you have to. Yeah, you got to kind of lean into your picks.
I got to dig all the way in.
Again, I am fully here for this one. Titans versus Lions, another game where I'd be very, very shocked if we are all not in agreement on. Ryan's going Lions. I'm going Lions. And really, I'm interested to see who the Titans are going to be starting at quarterback this week.
Yeah, I feel like the Lions and Ravens are like prime this week for like the teaser bet, where like you change the spread down to like maybe a field goal, maybe each team to win by a field goal, and add in like another little. I feel like that's going to be the most bet like teaser parlay of the week. It's just those teams to win because they are so far and away better than the teams they're playing against. The Lions are at home too. Like I no doubt I'm going the Lions. No way I'm not picking the Detroit Lions.
Yes. And moving on to the Falcons versus Buccaneers in our last game here in this noon slate. Ryan's going Bucks. Ryan said take the over. Based off the way that they played the last time they played, you kind of be silly to not take the over. But we're both kind of picking opposites here based off of the last game. And me and Ryan are both picking the Bucks to win.
Yeah, can they tie? But just to go against you guys, I'll go Falcons. That the only reason.
There you go. Honestly, you're on the podcast so much at this point. Once this episode is done, I kind of want to go back through and tally what your record is, because we're keeping an overall record based off of the two of us. So I want to see what your record is, and kind of obviously you're gonna pick less games than us. So I'm kind of interested in see how your win percentage is versus me and Ryan. Chargers versus Saints. I'm sorry, buddy. Again, me and Ryan are on the same page here. Yeah, we're both picking the Chargers, and I might not even have the Saints win another game this season.
I'll pick the Saints for the bit, just to like say I picked the Saints. So if they do win, I can say like, hey, I was right. Everyone else was wrong, but just as a fan, I'll just pick the Saints. This is the only reason.
There you go. Bills at Seahawks. Again, me and Ryan lockstep here. We're both having the Bills win this one.
This one's fascinating. This one's a fun one. You don't get this.
Yes, I like this one.
In Seattle, far coast travel for the Bills. Ooh, if Geno gets hot, I'm gonna go Seahawks.
I am here for that, especially how well they looked this past week.
This is the game I like the over. I like Seattle getting out early and just Josh chasing points. I smell that script.
I like it too. The rookies, the game that again I had talked about with flexing, and the rookies, Bears versus Commanders. I again, don't think Jane Daniels is going to play. Again, he has a rib issue going on. And maybe the shock of the century, Ryan is having the Commanders win this one. He says he thinks this is the trap game of the century, which is kind of going to be really funny if Marcus Mariota beats Caleb Williams, and I really hope he does, just for my bit of it all. But I'm going to have the Bears win this one, especially with Mariota probably being the quarterback there for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the Bears. Their starting quarterback is healthy, and they're coming off a bye. That's it.
Yeah,
The defense is awesome. The defense is awesome.
Yes. I'm, again, honestly very, very shocked that Ryan picked the Commanders to win this one, especially if Jane Daniels was playing. I think this would be a fun game, and I think it would be a fun conversation to have. But the fact that we're picking Marcus Mariota to win a game against a half-competent defense is absolutely wild to me.
I can't believe that line is -3 Chicago. Feels like it's a bait line.
It is a bait line, but I might have to go back through and kind of whip up a parlay based off of everything that we have said outside of the parlay I'm going to give you guys. But Chiefs versus Raiders, again, this is probably going to be another game that we all agree on. Me and Ryan are both going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, Chiefs by a lot.
Yeah, Chiefs by a lot. Honestly, if the Raiders score more than like 10 points, I'm going to be shocked.
Yeah.
Panthers versus Broncos. Bo Nix has actually kind of looked good the last few weeks. I'm here for it. I was not, again, said it a couple of times now at this point, I was not a big Bo Nix guy heading into the season, or heading into the draft, but I've kind of liked him as the season progressed a little bit, and I'm gonna ride it with the Broncos.
He's been
Broncos country. That's right.
He's been a very productive scramble. Like
He has.
10 points is a
He's
lot.
Dak Prescott, like you were saying. He's Dak Prescott. Anyways.
Yeah. He's picked 100 picks before Dak Prescott though. Was not in the same draft, but maybe.
I mean, I was gonna say with his age, who knows?
But yeah, I mean, I'll take the Broncos just straight money line, but 10 points is a lot. I think Bryce is back and he's gonna cover 10. I kind of just for the culture bet. I'm 0-1 on for the culture bets, so maybe don't listen to that.
So, you're having the Panthers win?
No, I'm taking the Broncos to win, but Panthers cover 10. It's just too many points.
I was gonna say having the Panthers win is a wild take from you. Cowboys at the Niners, a game that I have not even fully processed in terms of who's going to win this. At the end of the day, I'm going to take the Niners just because they're the home team, but they're out their top three guys, or most likely their top three guys. Debo's no longer in the hospital, but I would be very shocked if he plays. But I'm going to pick the home team here. I don't have any confidence in the Cowboys, so I'm going Niners. Ryan actually did not give me a pick for this game, so I wish I could tell you guys what he has here, but he didn't give me a pick.
I'll go Niners. I know what I said about Dak, but I think the Niners just own this team on that field. I don't know what it is until Dallas can break that curse, and I don't think they have the defense to stop Jordan Mason in the run game. Period. That I just.
We saw and obviously Derrick Henry is clearly the better back, but we saw what Derrick Henry did to this offense. So, or to the defense, my bad. Yeah, Niners. And then for the Monday night game, the Giants versus Steelers, I'm actually going to shock people a little bit here. I'm going with the Giants. I think the Giants are going to be angry. They lost a game in which they would have hoped at least they showed fight in, and they clearly did not. And I think Russ is not going to look like the same Russ from last week. I'm going with the Giants here.
I'm going to take the Steelers. Let Russ cook. He's cooking. Period. That's it. Daniel Jones is bad. He'll get sacked like 3 times by TJ Watt.
Yeah, dude, TJ Watt is really going to set that record for like most sacks in a game with how bad this offensive line has looked without Andrew Thomas. It's might be rough. And this is another game Ryan did not give me picks for. So I wish I could let you guys know. I could be wrong here. I'm going to guess that he's going with the Steelers kind of based off of where he lied throughout the entire season on the Steelers. He was kind of always on that train even before the start of the season that the Steelers were going to continue their winning streak or winning season streak that they have.
Yeah, if they beat the Giants, they're 6-2. That means they're just 3 wins away from the 9-8. The glorious 9-8 that Mike Tomlin loves.
Mike Tomlin, grow up, bro. Who cares? Oh my goodness. Again, that's a conversation for another day. We'll move on to the next segment here, guys.
They say winning isn't everything, and that may be true in some cases, but right now, let's make some money. It's time for Pigskin Payout.
So, like I said, I might have to go back through and kind of listen to everything that we had talked about and maybe whip up a parlay based off of what we had said. But for the parlay that I have, this is ironically 2 same-game parlays thrown together to be a 4-pick parlay. And that's going to be over for both Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp on yards. So it's 84.5 for Justin Jefferson and only 66.5 for Cooper. I feel like that line, I think he's going to smash that line. And then for the Eagles, I'm going to go over on Saquon at 75.5 rushing yards, and then over on Devontae Smith at only 52.5. Altogether, that actually puts you at plus 953. So if it hits, you're placing $10 to win just over 100. So I don't know if you're gonna ride and you believe in the Eagles, might be a fun parlay to bet. But do you have one for us?
Yeah, I'm placing money right now. I need like one more. Let's get a collab touchdown score. Who's scoring a touchdown this week?
Devontae Smith.
I can't even bet on it.
Like half of them don't even have like props,
Yeah.
and that's why it's always hard to kind of do this stuff on Wednesdays.
There's no touchdown scorer, but I'll just say, let me find a game. Let's pick Josh Jacobs. All right. Let's say Josh Jacobs is going to score a touchdown. I can't bet it right now, but Miami Dolphins 3.5 minus 3.5. Bills Seahawks over 47.5. Carolina plus 9.5. All of those bets are like minus 105 or better. They're like almost plus 100 odds. All of those. So 3 legs, that's 665. I imagine with like a touchdown scorer, that would almost increase it to like 1,300. So hey, sprinkle something on there.
Hey. Yeah, it might not be bad. And I just privately asked Ryan, too, by the way. He actually has the Cowboys winning this one. And again, no shocker. Like I said, he has the Steelers winning this one. Not at all surprised by that one. So, but moving on to probably the segment that you've been looking least forward to talking about on this podcast.
Pro football isn't the only game in town. Let's take a stroll to Ben's College Corner.
Again, this is no longer Ben's College Corner, especially with Ryan kind of picking up on college football this season and with you coming on as often as you are. This is, again, really not Ben's College Corner at this point. But we will cover, again, the last 2 weeks here in college. And just as always, I'm going to kind of give you guys the big news and updates and then games to watch. And feel free to step in as you feel free and as you feel fit, because I'm sure you're going to have something to say after this first talking point here. Last time we left you off, we told you guys it was going to be that Red River rivalry, Texas versus OU. To no one's surprise, Texas beat OU. But then they played Georgia in a game in which I actually had money on Texas winning. And, of course, they did not. Georgia ended up winning. That drops Texas down to 5 in the polls. That brings Georgia back up to 2. It was really a rough watch that first half, and they picked it up in the second half a little bit, but it was a rough watch for that game.
Yeah, man. The offensive line It was billed going into the game as like one of the best, and it was Joe Moore Award level, which for anyone who doesn't know, that's the Offensive Line of the Year award. They were billed as that kind of team, and they got worked by Kirby Smart on defense, and it was my fear all week. I knew it could happen. I knew they were playing in a monster game, and he worked them, period, flat out, and it sucks. But again, it's one of those things that, like, you lost to the standard of college football in Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, the only team that felt like they could get them was Bama, in which a game where Bama was up 28-0 in that game and lost the lead. Like, Georgia's still dominant. It's not like they just lost to anybody, in my opinion. So it's like there's no good losses, but this is as good of a loss as you can get, especially when it comes to like seeding for the playoffs. From this point forward for Texas, it's pretty easy. Like Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy this week. I'm missing one. Florida are still on the schedule, and then A&M. Like, those are the games until the huge game at Kyle Field. So it's like we might not know anything about like Texas. Period. This team could be 10-1 going into Thanksgiving weekend, and we know nothing about them, like from a good or bad, because they've just beat up on the bad SEC teams. The lower tier SEC teams. Like Vandy's ranked this. They're still ranked this week. Do you know the spread on this game?
I do not, but I can find it for you here.
Try and guess. I'm looking at it. I just want you to guess. Texas in Nashville. Just what you think it would be.
Texas 13.5.
It is Texas 18.5. It opened at 17 flat, so it's been bet up. Like the overall like landscape of college football expects Texas to bounce back, and it's Georgia. It happens, and so I'm kind of like I'm over it. It stings because Carson Beck looked awful too. Like that's kind of the underrated story of the game, that like he kept this in it, and so did the student section. By the way, that was one of the weirdest, most wild 5 minutes I've ever seen on a football field. And I'd love to get your opinion. Do you think they changed the call because there was beers thrown on the field, or do you think they actually had to come to
Yes, they 100% changed the call because the beers thrown on the field. 100%.
I'm just asking.
For those who aren't aware of what he's referring to, they called, I forget what the exact call was, but they made a call. Texas fans, or not Texas fans, Georgia hated it. It was awful. They started throwing beer cans on the field, and then the referees and the officials of the game all collaborated, and they overturned it, and it was, like you were saying, a very wild 5 minutes. Really, I think the two things people aren't going to talk about enough. I really think that this is going to be the ACC game, or the SEC game, and I'm wondering how different it is going to be when Isaiah Bond is back and fully healthy. Because when you have a piece like that with a dude who obviously he was doing his best to play in a game in which he was not fully healthy, and he tried to kind of suck it up and play through his injury there with his ankle. But if we see this rematch again in the SEC championship game, I should probably learn from this game, but I probably won't, and I will probably have Texas winning it.
Yeah, another thing too, I think I pointed it out in our chat with me, you, and Ryan. Like, it sucks that it was Georgia too, because like this is finally the team that like they're just as big, just as fast, just as strong as us, and they were just more menacing in the first half. Like it was complete blanket sweep. They were the better team in the first half. So that really hurt, because you were going into that game. This was finally the first game at DKR that, like, under the lights, this was the moment to, like, snatch it and say, like, we're SEC. Like, it's not, we're not, like, a 1 or 2 away, or 5 like Oklahoma is. But, like, we're here now and we're ready to compete, and their chain got snatched. And it was so bad that a redshirt freshman I don't even think it's because his last name was Manning. It was because the offensive line was so bad for Quinn Ewers that he could not stand in the pocket and make a throw that Sark said, I need a guy who can just move out of the pocket at this point. And then he went to Quinn at the end of that, like the middle of the half. I want your opinion. Do you think that was a good decision? Like just in the moment when they announced Quinn was going to start the second half, did you think good or bad? Because I was at a point where it was like, whoever he starts, he has a plan. I did trust Sark on that. So whoever started, I was like, I know you have a plan, but I just want non-Texas.
Quinn, no, I don't know. I think Quinn needed to go back in. I did not like what I had saw from Arch. At that point, if both of the quarterbacks aren't looking very good, I'm going to lean on hopefully my more veteran, more experienced quarterback. It'd be different if Arch had stepped in and had picked up the offense and picked up the pace and started having the offense play up to the standard that we were used to for Texas this year, but that didn't happen. So you should go back to the guy who has the more experience, the more veteran guy, and I think it was probably the best move. And we kind of started seeing that there in the second half. The second half is when they started picking up a little bit. So I think it was the right move for him to go back to Quinn.
Also, Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker took over the first half, too. I just wanted to throw out his name. He killed it. He was amazing.
So, yes. Moving on to the next one. So 2 weeks ago, obviously not this prior week. This prior week they played Purdue, but Oregon beat OSU and then went into West Lafayette, handled their business, did everything they needed to do. And to the dismay of Matt, Oregon is the number one ranked team in the country right now.
Gross.
Which is looking good for me. I went back through to see if I could cash out on the Oregon winning the national championship stuff. And cash out is suspended, no shock. It would have been nice to be able to cash out on that.
Would you get those out there? What are those out there? Because I can
plus 500, something like that.
I could try and I could find. You keep going. I could find their odds right now.
I think their odds were. I think I got them at plus. It was either plus 500 or plus 450 or something like that. It was right around that mark. I tried to go back through and see if I could.
Very ironic. They are plus 500 right now. That's the number one team in the country.
Oh no! Wow. Actually, I'm sorry. I got their odds at way better. It was OSU that was plus 4. It was OSU that was plus 400. Oregon was plus 850. And it looks like I can cash out right now. I put $5 on it. And I could cash out on Oregon to win the national championship at a whopping $5.82. So I could make my money back right now if I wanted to cash out. But
yeah, I'm the same on Texas's bet. Yeah, I have the Texas national championship. I'm the same.
Letting it ride. We're letting it ride.
Yeah, letting it
ride. But yeah, Oregon's number one ranked team in the country right now. Again, I don't know how long that's going to be. It might just come back to if Oregon continues to win and Georgia continues to win. How do you not keep those guys at 1 and 2? I'm just wondering if we're going to have, an Oregon performance where they win but don't, blow a team out, and Georgia does, and maybe Georgia can hop back into that number one spot if Oregon has a down week.
I think I'm looking at the college football playoff rankings, which come out, ironically enough, election night. I will definitely be watching the college football rankings, by the way, if anyone was wondering. But we're serious podcast here. But I think Georgia having that donut in the loss column will keep them number one no matter what. Having one of the best wins of the year, is it a better win than Georgia in Texas? We're picking apples to oranges kind of there, but Georgia has a loss, Oregon doesn't. So I think Oregon, as long as they just win, they will be number one. I'm confident in that.
I could see. So let's see. They go and play. Let's see what the rest of their season looks like. So they play Illinois this coming week, a ranked Illinois team. So they play number 20 Illinois, given that's at home. They play Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and then Washington. Those are their final 5 games that they end the season on. Let's say they play a close game to Maryland, and Georgia continues to dominate the rest of the season, and Oregon wins by 3 points or maybe by 7 points in a game they look sloppy. I could be convinced for Georgia to take it, but I agree. I mean, if they continue to win, they're definitely going to be 1 or 2. So for my sake, I hope they continue to do that. And maybe I could cash out and win a little bit of money before, playoff happens, because Lord knows what the playoff does happen. There's no way Oregon beats a team like Georgia or even Texas. Like, if Texas played Oregon straight up right now, I think without a doubt I'm having Texas win that one. And that might be crazy coming off of how bad they looked against Georgia. But I am picking Texas to win them. And right now, outside of OSU, and Penn State, if you believe in Penn State. Again,
You're not
fully there on Penn State. Yeah, I am a certified not believer for them. But the Big Ten football is a little soft at the top end. And ACC or SEC football is a different animal. I think if I could cash out before the playoffs happen, I would probably do such. But I could talk about that for another 20 minutes, so we're not going to do that. It's about time. IU is, oh my gosh, they're ranked 13, guys, in a game in which I went to homecoming to see that stadium sold out, to see that stadium, packed and as loud and as, electric as it's been in probably like 50 years at this point, like even more so than what it was against with Penix here. It was so much fun. And then to do and given Nebraska's an okay team, but to do what they did against Nebraska and a team that has a relatively good defense, to hang up 50, I think it was 56 points or 57, something like that, to hang up that many points on Nebraska was so much fun to watch. And I think if they can get through this week against Washington, which will be tough because Curtis Rourke is hurt, he won't be playing in this game. We revert to Taven Jackson, the brother of Trace Jackson Davis, basketball star. If they can get through this Washington game, I think there's a very, very, very good chance that they end the season, or I don't want to say end the season, but go into postseason outside of the Big Ten championship with 1 loss against OSU. And if their 1 loss is against OSU and then maybe a second loss in the Big Ten championship, I don't know if you can keep IU out of the football playoffs. And it is going to be fun if they can make it. But we'll see. There's still a lot of football left. But it is fun to see this team playing as well as they are. And hearing some of the Gus Johnson calls afterwards was a lot of fun. But your thoughts on Indiana football?
Kurt Cignetti is electric. Period.
Yeah.
That's it. He brought, I don't know how many times Joe Klatt, I'm not a group of 5, diehard. The amount of guys he said, 4th year player out of transferred with him from JMU. It's like, there's no, I'm not surprised that this team is this good because he just coaches tough and guys want to play for him, clearly, if they're following him to IU, who notably the last few years has been a dormant football program.
The last 50 years.
Yeah,
I'm saying the Penix year.
The only time was that one Penix year where, was he short against Penn State? I still think about that play late at night. But
he was.
Just overall, it's just, he's awesome when they would go over the sidelines and talk to him. He was just so straightforward. We got to play better. We're going to be, we're just going to kick your ass kind of mentality. And that is the kind of mentality that I just admire in a coach and I want to follow and fight for. And no wonder they're playing this hard for him. And if he continues to dominate the group of 5 transfer portal, because it feels like that's his game plan, I feel like they're going to continue to be this steady pace team. And if you get the schedule to fall right like it is this year, you could have a season like this, a special season like this. So IU football has been, it was my first watch. I had never watched IU live until this weekend, and I was like, man, this guy played in the MAC last year. Talking about Rourke, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Like, this dude's real.
Rourke is playing like arguably the best quarterback in college football, maybe outside of Cam Ward.
Yeah.
It's fun, but like I said, he had a thumb injury there at the start of the third quarter. He got like a minor surgery done on it. There's a chance he will be playing next week. He hasn't officially been ruled out, but kind of just like the Jane Daniels situation, he probably won't play despite the official ruling like not being out. He's not going to play.
Yeah.
And you start looking at a dude like Julian Lewis, the 5-star who is at least right now committed to USC, and we don't have to talk about how bad they have looked. There might be a chance that he flips, because that's been a big thing, and it goes back to his coaching, and he has connections as well. So it's not just that IU's looking good and USC is looking bad. But if you dominate like that and you can pull in a few, high 4 stars or maybe a 5-star here or there, we could start seeing IU really, really pick it up the next couple seasons, and I am here for it. Another thing we're all here for, unless you're an Alabama fan, Alabama lost to Tennessee, and they might have just played themselves out of the playoffs with these last 2 losses. And given, again, there's a lot of football to be played, we can still see a 2-loss team make it with the 12 spots and everything. But man, they have not outlooked good the last 3 weeks. That is for sure.
No. I mean, that game against Tennessee, it continues to just say to my it's all splash plays and just the run game with them, and Tennessee's defense is the real deal. It's their offense came together in the big spot. Like Nico Iamaleava really showed out down the stretch of that game and was the better quarterback, which ironically enough, weeks ago, me and you were raving about Milroe being quarterback 1. But, just to have that toughness to win that game, it takes a lot. And so many guys have talked about, Neyland Stadium being the toughest place to play anywhere. And so for them to, pull it off and stay in the hunt, this is huge for Alabama. This is 2 SEC losses, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they lost to Vandy.
Yep,
so it's
Vandy.
It really puts it on the bubble, and I said I have a ticket this year that is Bama under 9.5 wins. So one more loss cashes that ticket for me. It was but it's just this isn't the Alabama we know and love, or not really love, but know. But
Yeah.
It's gonna take a minute. It just is. And some of these games, Nick Saban just had a knack for winning, and Kalen DeBoer, I get he's won everywhere he's went, but I kind of default to the Southern folk who say this ain't just anywhere. This is the South, where it's football, and we're gonna.
It's a way of life down there, man.
It really is, and what if imagine DeBoer's 8-4, and people are running them out of town. That'd be insane.
It'd be wild.
It could happen with the way college football is down there, but
yeah.
Overall, stock up Tennessee, stock down Bama, I guess.
Yep. And then before we get into the last point, I saw this and it could have been satire. From what I saw, it looked real. Again, it could be satire. Did I see, and tell me if I'm wrong, because you'd be the one to know this, did Vandy put up nets in front of their student section to prevent them from rushing the field?
I did not see that. No.
Okay. We'll talk about this last point, and I will try to find it to see if this was
That's hilarious.
satire or if it was something that was real. The last point here is just the 2 major service academies, an Army and Navy, absolute role. Like you were saying, you just pick them to win every week and you're making money.
They're awesome.
Wow.
They're so awesome. This week, Army was a scare.
While I find it,
but yeah, as a I'll take the reins. Army
Please.
and Navy have been in any slip I've done for college football every single weekend since the beginning, because I'm a patriot and I want to bet on my country. But like, just overall, like they just continue to print money. Just as like from a betting standpoint, they continue to be good. It clearly seems like there's just a shift in football, that it's like, because everyone is getting lighter, running the football and being gimmicky in the option and flex bone game, it is really messing with defenses. And it can't be, if one of them was 7-0 and the other was 4-4, then okay, it's coincidence Army is good, Navy's not. They're both unbeaten, and it's like they're winning convincingly. It's a real thing going on in college football, that these two teams and their gimmick offense, it's winning. Like it's just 1940 stuff. We're gonna just pound the rock, and it works. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly what they do, and they're gonna continue to run. So again, it looks
They both play Notre Dame still, by the way. So I'm really excited for those.
yes.
Navy plays this
yeah,
weekend.
Navy plays them this
Army's
week, and
a few.
we'll
I'm getting ahead of
we will
myself.
get into
but
it in just a second.
it's not like Army's not going to play real teams. Like both of them are going to play a real football team this year, and we will be able to watch them on national television and see like, okay, all right, you're fake. But I don't think either one of them is fake.
Yeah, no, I think it's real, and I think come December when we see these two teams face against each other, it is going to be quite the battle. Really quickly, I think it is fake, but here, if you look up Vanderbilt Nets, you can find it all over Twitter, and it was actually, the story goes, was this is actually supposed to be like where like the Texas section is. It is a joke, but the joke is they put the netting up in front of the Texas section because they were worried about Texas fans throwing trash on the field. But yeah, I think it looks real at first glance if you're just like scrolling through it, but then you zoom in and you're like, oh, these are clearly fake lines that they put in. But when you scroll past it, it looks kind of real, but no. Just satire, poking fun at the Texas fans that we had talked about earlier with them throwing the trash on the field.
That's another thing, thinking about like they didn't and they still lost, but like what if they won? Imagine the discourse. Like for Bama or for Georgia, losing your second SEC game and effectively kind of taking you out of the SEC title picture, because fans, like, I agree with you. They threw it on the field, and I don't know if they were in fear that they were going to storm the field because they were in Texas, but they switched the call. Someone in that ref crew was like it might go down. And I'm looking at that $1 million scoreboard, and yeah, we kind of made a wrong call, guys. Like, can we just switch it? Like, we got this time stoppage. Like, let's just change it. Like, it's a bad call, but like, if that doesn't happen, if that time stoppage doesn't happen, I completely agree with you. Like, we go on, and Georgia is still driving. Like, it's
yeah,
it's wild. It really is.
It absolutely was. But getting to the games to watch this week, I picked out another three for you guys. One that we had just mentioned when we talked about our service academies. Notre Dame ranked 12 versus Navy 24. I could be wrong. I think this is held at MetLife. So I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, putting this game at MetLife Stadium. Let's just hope and pray that no one gets hurt. But it's going to be fun to see if Notre Dame can stop this offense. And I might just for the bit at this point, like you were saying, throw like $5 on Navy to win. I might, and I don't know what that line is. I'm sure Notre Dame is favored, but I might. Let me see what this line is while you talk about it here for just a second.
Yeah, I'm looking at Navy's past games, and like they beat Memphis. Memphis was a real factor of coming out of the group of 5. So it's like, just just to like give context to why I think Navy is actually good. 13.5 is just too many points. Like it truly, like the way the line is
plus
like, the way
three
Vegas,
plus 390 for Navy, by the way.
the way Vegas is thinking is like if Notre Dame starts fast, they have the more talent. If they start fast and Navy has to throw the ball and kind of chase points, then it could get out of hand. But at the same time, like what have I seen from Notre Dame to think they're going to start explosive? You know what I'm saying? Like, I really...
You're telling me.
I do like Navy. I'm going to watch this game. I'm so intrigued by it. Like, the other games in that time slot, you really want to watch Ohio State and Nebraska. But just overall, it's a fun game with, like, two funny numbers next to their teams, and one of them is Navy. That just shouldn't happen. But here we are, you know? And I'm at the point where it's just like, can one of you be a playoff team? Like, what if? What if? It's. I would take back all I say about the playoffs if one of the service academies get in the playoffs. I'd be like, you know what? The 12-team playoff was a great. Let's extend it to 16. Let's get both of these guys in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would just like if the service academies could get in to the playoffs, I'd be, I'd throw out all my priors.
Oh gosh, I'm here for that. Moving on to the next ranked matchup, Mizzou 21 versus Alabama 15. Like you said, Brady Cook is very questionable. Again, he hasn't officially been ruled out. Again, it's kind of the theme for this week, I guess.
Thamel reported just a few hours ago. He's the main ESPN guy. He says he's doubtful, but he's been he's been practicing extremely.
I mean, he came back in. He went to the hospital and came back into that Mizzou game and won the game for them.
I wouldn't be shocked if he starts this football game, but they look after a drive and say, "Listen, you tried to give it a go. Like here's your golden star, but we're gonna say that this guy puts us in a better chance to win." So I'm call me a non-ball knower. I don't know who Mizzou's backup quarterback is, but just like
he didn't look good. I'll tell you that.
I think Brady Cook is genuinely going to give it a run, and it takes one rush from Jahad Campbell to just say, "Yeah, no, you're not finishing this game, man. If you can't move, we're gonna eat you alive." And I think,
and for those who don't know, this past game he went out with I don't know what the injury was, but he had went out and he actually ended up going to the hospital because of the injury. They were losing, they were down. Was it Auburn, I think?
Awful team.
They were losing, they were down, and then Brady Cook came back into the game after being ruled out and going to the hospital, came back into the game and ended up winning the game for them. So if Brady Cook isn't playing, obviously this is going to be an absolute blowout. But anything's possible if Brady Cook plays this game. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, an SEC matchup, Texas A&M ranked 14 versus 8 ranked LSU. We've talked about it a little bit. We haven't gone too much into detail, but outside of that first game, Texas A&M has kind of found their footing a little bit and is starting to move back up, starting to win more of these games, and maybe becoming a little bit of a threat here back in the SEC. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see if Garrett can hold them off.
Yeah.
So, you have any thoughts?
If you can make any reservations for one football game this week to watch, college football, it's this one. Because I want to throw it. Maybe you don't know, Ben, but there are only 2 teams in the this matters to me now because I'm SEC, sticking through. There's only 2 teams who are still undefeated in SEC conference play, and they play each other this weekend in this game. This is how big that game is. It truly, I don't want to say it's loser leaves town match because it's still early enough, but one of these teams is going to, LSU can go to 4-0 in the conference, and A&M could go to 5-0 in the conference after their nightmare first game against A&M, and they come crawling all the way back. It's huge. And A&M at Kyle Field under the lights is real. It is a real place that, you know, I'm not nervous, but just overall, like it is a scary place to play. And this is a game with massive implications between two teams who don't like each other. So it's going to be, if you can watch one college football game, if this is your introduction into college football, watch this game. This game is going to matter. Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, excellent player. He stands in there and he just delivers the football. But I'm so excited for this football game.
Yes. Again, another great week of college football. Hopefully IU can continue to win.
Florida
and
State,
we will move
Miami
on.
is this week. Oh, what a wonder that game could have been.
Emphasis on could have been. Florida State is bums. They had never lost to Duke, ended up losing to Duke. I'm sure you love to see that with their quarterback. But Florida State is bad. But another very, very fun week of college football. And again, hopefully I come back to this
Also,
saying that IU won. Yep.
Also, I just want to say one thing. CUSA craziness, I don't know if you saw this, Ben, happened tonight. Kennesaw State beat Liberty just hours ago. And I cashed out of my 4-leg playoff parlay with Liberty in it probably 2 days ago. So I turned $2 into $6, dude. All right.
Woo!
I got out when
Profit.
I needed to.
Tripled your money.
I got out when I needed to. I'm happy with it because I watched Liberty like one game this year against I think it was UTEP or Florida International. Oh my God, that team is rough. And the inevitable was going to come with this team, but 27.5-point favorites they lost today. That's remarkable for Kennesaw State. The meme team of college football 25. I know that, but
We're
It's time for America's favorite game, Weddle.
Actually, we played this, and this wow, none is for you guys. Hold, give me one.
all right. Well, we're waiting for Ben, having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Are we back?
We're hopefully back. Of course, this is when everything wants to start crashing out in terms of the Wi-Fi. I don't think it's a surprise that everything was crashing out when I open up Weddle as 10,000 ads. None of these guys. But we'll start off on easy mode, and we'll start with our guests. Who do you want to guess here for easy mode?
Jordan Love.
If you get this off rip, I'm going to be upset. There we go. Jordan Love. So we know it has to be maybe not a super short guy, but at least a kind of short guy who's young, not a quarterback, and plays in the AFC, which you didn't really help me out here, literally at all. We'll go with Chase Brown. That's help.
Got a running
Short
back.
guy, young short guy.
Short and young. Thinking of the South. Thinking of like past drafts, like really recent drafts.
Yeah.
Colts, no. Titans can't be.
Who?
Because it's bigger than.
Bigger than Tajay, yeah.
Yeah, he's number 2.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of taking a tour around the divisions
Yeah.
more so than anything. I don't know what number he wears. Kamani Vidal.
Jeez. That would be a wild pull for Easy. Yeah. I was gonna say it'd be a wild pull for Easy.
Yeah.
All right. So that leaves us with either the South or the East. There's no one on the East that stands out to me. No one on the Patriots. No one's on Jets. This guy's definitely not it, but hopefully it'll help us. Oh my goodness!
That's who I was thinking.
So obviously we know who it is.
Yeah, it's got to be Achane.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. We thought of Kamani Vidal and Jalen Wright before
We thought of
Devon Achane. Can you tell me
do you
like
want
the
to start
draft?
off? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I want to find like a common like middle ground player. We talked about it, Cooper Kupp.
I feel like Cup is on here like way too much.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
So a defensive player in the NFC who wears
8 or 9.
8 or 9. So most likely a DB.
Yeah.
Didn't really help me out here, but I think he is 6'1", if I would spell his name right. All right.
Okay, he's
So we
even younger.
know. Yeah, he's young, so should help.
So we know DB 6'1", 24, 25. Where's number 8 or 9? What are those divisions? West and North. So he's got to be in the East or the South. Do you know who it is?
I don't.
He might be too tall. I kind of want to get. I'm gonna go J.C. Horn. I'll gamble my guess.
I think. Yeah, I thought Horn was 6'2".
Yeah, he.
Oh!
Boom!
Oh my goodness!
There we go.
It was J.C. Horn. I thought J.C. Horn was 6'2". I wish.
So did
let
I.
me delete this. Yeah, I thought he was 6'2". That was a great pull, though. That was a great pull. I was honestly cycling through people in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's where my mind goes. Absolute great rip. We're here for it.
We're here for it.
I could have sworn he was 6'2". I could have sworn he was 6'2". But again, thank you, Matt. Again, honestly, coming on like every other week at this point. We used to say honorary member, but at this point, I think we kind of have to strip away that honorary part out of that title. Just member of Pigskin, your co-hosts. At this point, with how often you come on, being much appreciated. Do you want to say anything before we get out of here?
No. The only thing I was like just scrolling the college football because this is like the first time I've looked at the schedule. Boise State, UNLV. That's like Mountain West, like winner take all kind of stuff on Friday night. With so I'm now like excited for that one, like thinking about it. But and if you need a reason to watch, we'll watch the Heisman. You know, he's gonna win it.
Yes.
Find number 2. Find number 2. He stands up like Michael Myers, and he's just going to run through the defense and score touchdowns. He's awesome.
makes me so incredibly happy that you said Heisman, because I know how you feel about Travis. So
and the injury slowed him down.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean what Jeanty's on pace to do is just freakish stuff. So yeah,
we haven't seen it in 37 years, man, since Barry. It is.
And again, like I know we actually did end the show with us talking about this last time, but like truly in a non-top heavy draft, I'm so genuinely excited to see where he goes, because just a few years ago we saw Bijan go 8. So it's not like teams are saying, no, we can't draft these guys. If there's a talent in a non-top heavy draft, and those 2 receivers, I think Burden and McMillan and then Hunter are gone, I think it gets into a debate. Jeanty's the best playmaker in the draft, because he's a good receiver too.
Yes, that's it. The reason you said 8, though, we'll do this. We'll do this right now. The reason that I am worried about the top 10 aspect of it all is because Bijan went number 8, and as good as Ashton Jeanty is, as a prospect, Bijan was better.
Yes.
And Bijan got taken 8, but given Bijan's draft class was significantly better than this draft class when it comes to top talent. So that's where it gets interesting. But Bijan was definitely the better, Bijan, like you said, GT, good pass catcher. Bijan was on a different level when it comes to that and when it comes to size. But like you're saying, I mean, GT's on pace to do something that we haven't seen in 37 years. And in draft class, that's not top heavy, as we've talked about a couple times now at this podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. And I think the Chargers might have played them out of this category, which is a shame. Can we have the Chargers not win any more games? I really need to see him in the Harbaugh offense. That's my one wish for the season.
Why?
Chargers, just hear me out here. Chargers lose the rest of the season. In the process of that, Rams, please, for the love of everything that is holy, hang on to Cup. In the offseason, we can get a Cup trade to the Chargers, and Ashton Jeanty there. And it's perfect offseason. We're here for it. Anyways, we could do this for another hour if we really wanted to. But I got homework I need to get to. I need to get to bed here, guys. But again, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you to all of our sponsors there at Regional Radio Sports. For those who are following, it is now sectionals for high school. So you guys can go and find Ryan and Vince, the guy who does our drops, and everyone else there to listen in. Uppercuts Grooming, and then Spotify for podcasters. Like I said, the main goal has been to get off of StreamYard. Maybe next week will be the week to do it. Like I said, we've kind of been really busy with life, so we will see where that takes us. Hopefully next week. But then again, thank you again for everyone who watched live, everyone watching it back, and thank you, Matt. And we will see you guys next week.